And we're on. Right, we're live. Good evening and welcome to Chris Parkin's Shootings Talk. Live Tuesday night, fortnightly thingy bob. Bit different tonight because I have figured out how to make my iPad do the thing where it properly takes the picture. So I'm no longer looking at a mirror effectively. So if I do the wrong thing with the wrong hand, it's because of that. I'm also videoing this at high res because it's going to go onto YouTube. So that's another little experiment, which means we've got cameras all over the place, and that is why I will try to refer to people by their, for example, Eddie H, etc. Because on YouTube I don't really want to be broadcasting everybody's name to the world, although you will all be there on Facebook as well anyway still, so, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, eh? So, Chris Lewis, oh, see, I've done it already, Chris Lewis, okay, you're here. Good evening. Right, what's that now? We've got 4 of you. Right, well let me just fire up, well I say fire up, the laptop is running, I just need to see if I can see the questions appearing. Has anybody got any questions appearing yet? I can't remember how to do this now. Why can't I see the questions? Ah, that's why. Because I need to go there and they appear there. Super, right, we're all set, ready to go. Crack on. Good evening, Eddie. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Chris. Two Chris. Oh no, same Chris. Right. Well, it's 8 o'clock. Oh, good evening, Erlen. Nice to see we've got a little bit of a Scandinavian reach going on there, and Paul as well. So, has anybody got any questions? Let's get going, because if you don't ask me any questions, I'll bore you with what I am currently entertained by this week, and what's fresh. Have you got ELDX bullets? Eddie, yes I have. I've used some before, I got some more last week, but I've used them in various different rifles. The ones I got last week are going to get loaded up in my 260 because I want to rejuvenate that rifle for a bit more hunting use. I'm getting good performance actually. I used to use the 123 AMAX in it, which worked superbly. A little bit expansive, but I used it more as a sort of long-range fox of varmint to target rifle, and you know, it wasn't for deer. What else was I going to say? I have hardly slept in the last week because I've got really addicted to going shooting. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So yeah, the ELDX got a bit more ballistics, a bit more oomph, and of course the AMAX are gone. I have had some good success with the 130 TMKs, but they're quite tough, and I just want to have a bit of an experiment. And the ELDX are a good bullet, so I'm looking forward to trying them, because the ELDM haven't quite floated my boat in this particular barrel and this particular rifle. Right, Chris L has said never mind, and it's not Nirvana tonight, so hang on, let me scroll back and have a look there. Never mind, Chris L. Chris, I'm going to use your initials, but Chris L, who is above Eddie H, good evening. That Q thing, how would you fix the fix? Well, do you know what? I wasn't going to publish that video, but when it was given to another reviewer as well, I thought, well, I think I've got to give balance, because I publish a lot of reviews. I probably publish more reviews in the UK than, I think, well, I've got at least 2-3 firearms a month. I suppose Pete from Shooting Sports did more. There's a few others do a lot as well, and I've got huge respect for all of them. But yeah, when someone else has got the same rifle, I think, number one, I want to, you know, give a bit of a counterpoint to that, and number two, because I give a lot of rifles good reviews, sometimes it's going to creep through that one of them is just not going to be as good a review, and sadly the Q was just not a great thing, and I didn't do a full test on it. I didn't do the full video on it. Basically, I've just used the iPhone video, which was taken as a matter of course, which generally records my sort of aid memoir while I'm actually shooting a rifle anyway, and you know, it picks up whatever I say off the cuff, and you've got an off the cuff video. And personally, do you know what? I think off the cuff videos are better. You might get a few blips of wrong information on this, that, and the other, but you don't get wrong thoughts and you don't get wrong opinions, because they're coming, you know, straight from the experience moment. So yeah, right. Oh, Eddie, are you using copper heads for 308? I've been trying, but I don't stalk with the 308 anyway. unless opportunity arises. And opportunity usually arises when it's a supplied gun, supplied ammunition, blah blah blah. I've done some load development with the 110 and 165 GMX from Hornady. I mean, I've used other copper stuff in the past, but just recently that's what I've been doing. The 110 seemed to make sense for the 308 because you can drive them a lot faster. The 165, I think you're really into 300 Win Mag territory. I mean, I've got a 300 Win Mag as well, so I might do some development for them, but it's all a case of time and energy. I don't actually have a 308 rifle, it's my own, so I have to use it in review guns, and I'm not really a fan of using hand-loaded ammunition in review guns, especially when it's a completely new concept of hand loading with copper and new powders, and everything about the recipe other than the cartridge of the 308 is a new factor. So it's not like I'm using tried and tested ammo in someone else's gun, which I would never do. So evening, John B. Right, you've done the Q thing. I'm using Hoppy and no, Eddie. If so, what factory would you recommend? Eddie's busy tonight, aren't you, Eddie? I don't know. You're all going to just go... You've all watched Field Sports TV anyway, because Andrew and Tim have done it all. They do a lot more stalking than I do, and a lot more ballistic testing than I do. The main one I've hunted with in the past was the RWS Hit, which was 300 Win Mag ammo. It was a bit tough, but I knew it was a bit tough. It was just what I had to use at the time. I'd probably just go with the GMX because it's the one I know the best in terms of test rifles and test ammo. I am using GMX in my 243 at the minute, which is the 80 grain GMX. But I've been using that mostly for foxing, and I've only shot 2 foxes with that particular rifle and that particular ammo so far. It's done exactly what it needed to do, but of course on a fox you can afford to be a little bit less picky about any kind of damage or carcass value, things like that, which is not to say disrespectful. But you don't have to worry in quite the same way. But they've worked just fine. One fox is about 110, 15 metres. The other one was a bit closer. It was maybe 70-ish, 75. So no great ballistic challenge there. I have also used the GMX in 308, only on paper so far, and I've also done some hand loading with it so far. And I have used the... I can't remember what weight it is now. I've got some GMX 6555, which is actually for my own rifle. Shot a couple of things with that. It's been okay, but again, I was in very fortunate shot occasions, and I wasn't rushing anything. It's not really my world because I don't do that much deer stalking or have to consider a lot of the things that more professional stalkers than there are far more professional stalkers than I will ever be. I've got much bigger questions to ask of it, so. I'm not the one really to give you the full nous on that because for me it's more about the technicalities of what rifles you're going to be buying, what rifles you can shoot. Do you really want to go for a super short barrel and a rifle where perhaps in years to come speed is going to be a critical factor? I'm thinking probably not. So I've never been a huge fan of mega short barrels anyway, and especially since a lot of people are shooting 243s that may well even not meet certain guidelines because of having short barrels. Right, let me just have a quick scroll down on the list of questions here. Mark Craith Ristard, something there. Bergara B14 HMR 65 Creedmoor as an all-rounder, fallow and target thoughts. Mark, you've picked a rifle I really kind of like. Yes, in a word. If I had to have a rifle that would suit all those factors, perhaps weighted a little bit more towards the recreational target and steel use, etc., the HMR would be a great choice, and it's not too big, overbearing or unwieldy to stalk with on a more occasional basis. I wouldn't say recommend it for someone who has to go stalking 2-3 days a week or more, but for someone who's maybe going once or twice a month or even just a couple of times a year, I really don't see why not, because I've been more than happy carrying it, and yeah, it is a good rifle. I do like it. I've spoken many times of the HMR for that reason, because it's one of the few rifles that really ticks a lot of boxes. It's not the master of anything, but it's a really, really good jack of all trades. And in the 6.5 Creedmoor, as long as you're not boasting about energy development, brilliant. It's a great cartridge. So there you go. Scott P, how accurate is the Leica ballistic calculator in the geovids, especially compared to other electric solutions? Interesting you should bring that up, Scott P, because I have actually been on the phone to Leica today, because perhaps in a little moment of quietness between questions, I'll show you what's behind me. Because I think I'm safe to say this, there will be new things coming from the company you mentioned, Leica. They've got some great product already, products I've used for years, lots of other products I've tested, especially in terms of the HDB binoculars, which are one of my go-to, pretty much always have them close by. There's going to be a new development. I probably can't speak about it too much yet because I've not clarified exactly what is and isn't in public domain yet, but this week's sort of one of two major interesting test items is the Leica head-up display. It's a little bit tricky to do this one-handed. He says trying to do it two-handed with his back to camera. This is the Leica head-up display. It's got a little flexible mount that fits on your rifle. It slots through on the Picatinny rail. You don't need to take the scope off to fit it, so you can take it on off with no problem at all. And the little thing clips in and out easily. So that can be swapped between rifles, but this is what you're going to carry with you. Now, I haven't done a huge amount of on-paper research with it yet. It turned up on Friday. I pretty much whacked it straight on a rifle, tied it up to my Kestrel, and off I went. My Kestrel is here. You'll have seen a few pictures. I've not actually had any chance to get out with any great amounts of distance or wind yet, but I've had a few shots out sort of 250, 280 metres with it. But again, it's not even really been windy, and spindrifts aren't even a consideration at that distance. This is not a standalone ballistic calculator. Do not buy one of these unless you have one of those, because you do need the Kestrel as the basic. The Kestrel itself, the Elite, is the basic ballistic engine for it. The joy is, now I've just pulled it to pieces, the huge joy is the Kestrel works fantastically as a handheld unit and even better as a remote unit. And of course you put it in the wind vane and set that somewhere perhaps a little bit away from your rifle, maybe in the predominant wind. And of course, yes, we all know the wind can be blowing very differently from where you are, from where your target is, and the whole flight path in between. But in theory, this is where we start. So set your direction of fire on the Kestrel, put the Kestrel out, blowing around in the wind, set it on live weather monitoring, and then with that on the side of your rifle, these two things reliably, which is a crucial word, pair with each other. The moment you just turn the power switch on, you don't need to mess around at all after the first time you did it. I turned them on 5 minutes ago, and yes, guess what? They're paired with each other. Anyway, so when this is blowing around in the wind and it knows your target's there, and then it blows into that position with X amount of wind speed, which happens to be at 90 degrees to it, the readout for your windage figure pops up on here. It's a little bit more complicated than that in terms of the setup you'll have originally done on that, but you ain't going to buy one of these unless you've already mastered that, so there's no point in me talking about that anyway, other than the fact it's really the driving force. They're not cheap, these. They're about, I think they're 550 plus RRP, but it's something I'm going to be getting a lot more use from because I've got quite a few engagements and invitations for doing a lot more longer range shooting. So it's going to be great to review it, great to try it. I'm a big fan of Kestrel kit because there's a reason Kestrel kit is used by military forces and people all over the world. It's because it's good, it's reliable, and this is making up for the fact you don't want to be pairing up with everything on your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever, because I cannot stand kit that requires the use of paired iPhones, technology, tablets, pads, whatever, because sod's law, time after time, hands are cold, hands are wet, battery's dead, someone calls you halfway through, blah blah blah. Well, do you know what, that clicks on your gun, folds out to the side, the minute you turn it on it pairs with the Kestrel, and if you need it for that kind of thing, that's that. I'm not going to say everybody needs one, it's going to be a fairly small market for a product like that, but from everything I've seen about it so far, it is very, very appealing. So more about that over the course of the next couple of months probably, because it's going to take some time to really, you know, nail my opinion down on that. But I'm pretty confident. Right, how far? Anyway, going back to the Leica, sorry. The new Leicas, the Leica2800.com, which I reviewed about 15 months or so back, that will pair with your Leica. I think the new Leica 3200.com, that's going to do the same thing. So I've got to wait on it, got to wait to see it. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks it's going to arrive. There'll be more to tell then. I'm not going to start making statements I can't justify yet. So keep your eyes peeled. You never know, on this show in 2 or 4 weeks' time, that might be the star of the show. Excuse me. Right, what's next? How accurate? Yeah, the Leica thing is pretty accurate, especially for hunting distances. Yeah, you set it up well, you've got no bother with it. But it depends whether you're talking hunting or shooting steel or targets or what. Not that I'm saying it's wrong, but it's, you know, long range shooting it's not for hunting, it's for fun, in my opinion. I was actually told though, the Leicas tagged on with the Kestrel will use the Kestrel as the ballistic engine. The Leica will become just a display unit. It will broadcast the range to target that you ping to the Kestrel, but the Kestrel will do the math for you. Ooh, that was so American. It'll do the math. Kestrel will do the math and give you a readout. As it stands now, the readout from the Kestrel will be more than the readout you'll get with the binoculars alone. But in a way that's fine, because on the days when you're actually going hunting and travelling light with just your binoculars and rifle, you've got all your answers there. If you do have those opportunities on longer distance targets still, whatever, and you are set up with your Kestrel, great, because you've got that more functionality. So I think they've got that the right way around, and I've always been happy with the sort of background moral theory of some new products, because a lot of things, you know, they promise the earth, but you're never going to use it. Does anybody really use stadiometric rangefinders? Somebody says, oh, we're going to push this as a long range item, then they put a stadiometric rangefinder on it for a rabbit that might be standing up, might be sitting down, might be crouched, might be hopping, might be squatting. Who's going to measure that accurately? The error factor is enormous. Right, Yanni, good evening. Alan C, good evening. What's up, buddy? The ceiling. Richie, by the way, name is in Irish. Well, there we go. I'm not very good at Irish. I can't think of anything. I'll say something really cliche like top of the morning to you or something like that. What's the crack? Graham, hi Chris, sorry I can't join you, I'm a bit busy up the farm. I know, Graham, because you rang me earlier and you're gone shooting tonight, so funny enough, not lucky. Well, yes, lucky you, because I know you had a lot of lockdown issues with that, but I'm a bit tired. Going out 4-5 nights in a row is quite unusual for me, so who knows what items were keeping me interested that much. Chris H, a recent debate, Bergara versus Tikka, and let's throw Blaser in the mix too. Was this the one I saw on Deer Stalking UK or something yesterday, day before? And I said, tune in tonight and I'll answer that one. I suspect it might be. Right, Bergara versus Tikka. Number one, pick what the rifle is for. Is it a stalking rifle, or is it, as just previously mentioned, a rifle for a bit of stalking and a lot of target fun? Or is it a rifle for a lot of stalking and a bit of target fun? You've got to nail these things down, because there's no point buying a super heavy target rifle and then wanting to go stalking with it and vice versa. Tikka versus Bergara. Are we disregarding budget completely? Because you've also brought Blaser into the equation. Now, you're at least doubling the money there, pretty much straight off the bat, between entry-level stalking rifle from Tikka, Bergara, up to Blaser. I don't know the price off the top of my head, but I don't think you're going to see much out of a Blaser below £3,000, and you'll see a lot out of Tikka and Bergara for £1,000 and probably below. Bear in mind, I only ever get furnished with RRP, and RRP is not necessarily what you actually pay at your dealers. So don't ridicule my pricing. I have to use RRP. I have to quote RRP, because if I tell you what, you know, my local dealer says, that's his choice, not, you know, the market choice necessarily. Your question sprang up to me, and basically the one-word answer for what you said the other day was buy the Tikka. if you want a stalking rifle, it's the safest bet. They're great rifles, very reliable, huge network for them, lots of options in terms of calibers. You can get left-handers, you can, you know, scope mounts issues. You've just got no problem. There's a reason the Tikka is a very popular rifle. It's become a popular rifle and it's remained a popular rifle because it is just a sorted performer. I don't think I've ever had a Tikka that shot badly. Okay, usual caveat supply of, you know, you've got to maybe choose the right ammo, see which suits the gun best. But I've never had one that wouldn't shoot something really rather well. So yeah, I'd probably go Tikka. If you want to go a bit cheaper, you might have to go Bergara. If you this is talking stalking rifles, and if you want to go Blazers are lovely, but you're talking a lot more money. And don't forget, you've got to start tallying prices for things like scope mounts, which, you know, the strong end of what, 400 and some pounds for the scope mount. It is a superb system, but that's probably as much as some rifles and scopes are going to cost. So there's no free lunches. There's no free lunches at all. I've never had a bad Bergara, but they're just not quite as slick as the Tikka in the action, etc. Bergara is by definition what Remington should have done in 50 plus years of evolution, but they didn't. They just stood still and then seemed to go around correcting faults that people thought they had. I've got a few Remingtons, I don't have any Bergaras. It's not to say I wouldn't buy a Bergara now though, because Remingtons have they've just done nothing. They've done nothing. Bergara have. The one thing I would definitely say about the Tikka over the Bergara is you go to a 70-degree bolt lift rather than a 90. It's not that big a deal, but you know what? If you're wearing a baseball cap, like I often do, keep sun up my eyes and rain out my eyes, you put a 90-degree bolt up, you're always knocking your hat brim, and a 70 just seems to go underneath it. And I shoot quite a few 3 and 6 lug Mauser and Sauer rifles, and of course they stay under your hat as well. So, yeah. Best rifle style for a 270 win. Yeah, buy something that's not 270. I never liked 270. Funny enough, the second best group, and I don't get into groups, but the second best groups I've. In fact, I didn't shoot it. My very good pal Dave, who lives in the village here, he was. He's one of my great assistants in the whole gun testing game. He's a servant in my company, and he shot an absolutely stunning group with a 270 Seiko Black Wolf. It's a solid rifle, and he shot a stunning group with it. But actually, I'm no massive 270 fan. It's got plenty of horsepower, but I think maybe it stems a little bit from days where people wanted speed to make up for the fact that we didn't have Rangefinders 20 years ago. There's nothing wrong with 270, I just find it a bit barky, and I'm a huge lover of 3006, and of course the 270 is neck down from that, so it just has a different character to it. It's sharper, snappier, livelier. Yeah, it's got good ballistics. It's a great hunting round. It's great for the bigger deer species. You know, we'll do the small deer species no problem as well. But yeah, if I was going to have one, I wouldn't have a lightweight one because I find it very, very jumpy 270, more so than 3006 to be honest. I did actually shoot a 2506 a couple of weeks ago. I don't think I've actually ever shot one before. That was a Rem 700, very pleasant rifle to shoot, you know, perfectly within the realms of any kind of deer stalking requirements you'd have. But best rifle, it's what Donald M. It's what you can afford. What do you want to put your money into? You know, buy a Tikka, buy a Bergara, buy a Blazer. You know, do you want to spend £1,000 quid? Do you want to spend 5,000 quid? If you want to spend like 10,000 quid, buy a Blazer K95 because they're just lovely. But it's only one shot, so you know, it takes your choice. Jamie H. Mauser M18 or Winchester Model 70, and why? Do you know what? I have never had a Winchester Model 70. I went on a trip with Browning Winchester to, where was it now? I can't even remember where it was. Sweden it was. Went on a trip to Sweden. I can't even remember that. I think it was Sweden. It wasn't Poland, it was Sweden. And I actually had a Model 70 on that trip, we were having a bit of a play on the range. It's a very nice rifle to shoot. It was quite nice to actually encounter one. I think it was the 150th anniversary special or something, but whether that was for actually Winchester, not the actual rifle itself, I don't remember exactly. And I did request one for review, but I don't think you see many sold in this country. You don't see huge numbers of Brownings, even. They're actually quite solid rifles, Brownings. I quite liked, you know, the M70, but it's a bit, you know, it seems a bit cliched in America because it's like, is it a pre-64 or a post-64, you know, control feed versus push feed actions, blah, blah, blah. It's a kind of classic rifle made into the modern world, but whereas the M18 is, I'm a big fan of the M18. I use one very regularly. The 80 grain 243 I was just talking about, that's an M18. I find it one of the best, most underrated rifles there is, but what do I know? I just shoot loads of guns, and I pick ones that are not necessarily mega expensive, quite simple, that do work, just genuinely well. So I'd buy the M18 and spend the rest of your money on the scope, because to be fair, I have no doubts whatsoever about the hunting capability of an M18. And I would guarantee the Winchester will be harder to get hold of and more expensive, but don't know. Ask your local dealer, see what the price difference is. Chris L, Ticker T1X or CZ457 17 HMR, and best barrel length 16 or 20 or something else. Easy one there, T1X and the 16. Done. I've got, just going back to that, I've got the Ticker T3X UPR at the moment, which is the composite stock. It's not, I've not showcased a lot of it because I've not had huge amounts of opportunity to shoot it. But it's performed well on paper, it's performed well at the range. I've certainly no issues in that respect. It's just a case of getting out and finding the place and the time to just play out with it a bit further. The point I'm getting towards though is that of course the T1X and the T3X share the same footprint to the action, so at some point you may be able to get the T1X with the UPR stock, or at a later date, you know, get a T1X now in the plain synthetics, and then at a later date get the UPR stock. Because the UPR stock, I don't know, I get the impression it's a bit of a response to how popular the Bergara B14 HMR was. It's very much on the same theme. It is somewhat of a Macmillan A35 homage. I have an opinion on it already in relation to the Bergara, but I don't want to voice that too loud just at the moment. But I have to say, the T1X with that stock on it will be a nice rifle. It'll be the kind of rifle I'd quite like to use now. So, having said that, the 457 CZ have got some interesting stock options coming, but I have no working relationship with Sportsman Gun Centre, so I'll probably never see one. So, don't know. There we go.